Okay, so I just went to go pick up the new engine for the WRX, and unfortunately, whenever I got there, things weren't exactly as they seemed. So the guy that I was dealing with, I was asking, regular questions that you would ask when you're buying a motor. And I mean, every answer that he gave me basically, none of it was believable. So that's when I started. That's when everything was kind of started to unravel. And I mean, my biggest concern was, buying the motor. And if I install it and immediately upon startup it has a spun rod bearing, or a piston is cracked and has low compression, or a bent rod or a bent valve or whatever, like if it had an issue on startup, I just wanted to make sure I get my money back. And he basically said no. And then it just went from there. And also, so backstory on the motor, it came out of a wrecked car where it was a front-end collision. And Subarus are really bad about, whenever they get into a front-end collision, all like the radiator and the condenser and all that good stuff, and the core support getting into the timing cover and actually breaking the timing cover, also breaking cam gears, snapping timing belts, etc. And if you don't know, EJs entirely are all interference motors. So if you start skipping a couple teeth on the cam gear with the timing, you're going to have valves kissing pistons, and you're going to end up with some bent valves. So that was the other scary thing. But prior to me driving up there, which I drove an hour and a half to get there, so total it was a 3-hour, actually it was a 4-hour journey. But so I have 4 hours of my time invested in this, and prior to me getting there, he led me to believe that everything was cool with the motor, it was going to be fine, blah blah blah. But whenever I get there, the whole in-person interaction just went straight downhill. And actually, whenever he told me about the front-end collision, that's when I took off the timing covers. And I mean, the engine was out of time. I think the passenger lower exhaust cam gear was like 3 teeth out of time. And that's where you get into the pistons and the valves touching. It only takes just a couple before they start touching. So at that point, I just walked away. It's not really within my interest to blow, and I mean, he was asking top dollar for the motor too, so I mean, especially with that being considered, it wasn't worth the time, it wasn't worth the risk. So at this point, I am really considering just rebuilding this motor. I was looking around upstairs and I found that I do have a good crank. I think this crank actually might be new. It might have came with one of the cars that I bought in the past. So what I'll do is I'll measure this, and I have a few STI rods that came from other projects that are good. So what I can do is I can measure that and check the clearances. I can check to make sure that all of these journals are good and they're all true. Likewise with the rods that I have, and if that's the case, then what I might do is just go ahead and split the case on this, make sure that it's not a main bearing, because if you spin a main, then you have to go through the process of getting it line honed and all that good stuff, and at that point it's really not worth doing a stock rebuild on a motor that needs an align hone, or a line bore, sorry. So with that being said, if it's just a rod bearing, then I'll probably go ahead and do this and try and do it in a lengthy time frame to where I can get it back in this car. The alternative to that is you can actually buy a JDM engine for these guys. So a select few EJ 205s actually came, the ones that come with a plastic intake manifold and our single ABCS are a drop-in replacement for these. Basically what you have to do is strip it all the way down to the naked long block, use all of your USDM components like the intake manifold, turbo, etc., even the coolant crossover tube, all of your exhaust setup, transfer all the USDM stuff over to the JDM block, and then just get it retuned. Obviously it's going to be a half liter down, and I think the compression is going to be a little bit different. So yeah, I mean, other than that, it's still a single ABCS head with the same cam sensor pickups on the back of the heads. So I don't know if I can get a good shot on this, but these have, yeah, this guy right here, that's your cam sensor on the intake side of the cylinder head. So you'll have one on each head. As long as you have that, then you're good. Now there are a lot of like EJ20Xs that are dual AVCS. Don't mess with those. Those things are just a waste of time. Everybody says that they're plug and play, but basically if you leave that exhaust side unplugged, it's fully retarded, and you have, the timing won't ever be correct. So, I mean, if you can get it to work, it's news to me, but to me, it just doesn't seem like it's worth the hassle. So for now, I think I might just pull this off or pull this apart and check it out. Or if I can get a good deal on a JDM engine and get it here quickly, then I might go that route, because really it's a wash. Like the JDM engines are like 1,500 bucks. A gasket kit for this is 300 bucks. You got to get head bolts. I already have King mains and King rod bearings. Those are like 100 bucks. And then you'll also need a full timing kit, which is 300 bucks. And then trying to think about what else I need off the top of my head. I mean, there's a few other gaskets. Like sometimes you want to replace intake manifold gaskets, cam seals. But typically, well, you'll buy the whole gasket kit, so that'll come with all of that stuff. But assuming that there's nothing wrong with the pistons or the rings, then what I do is I just clean up really well and actually just keep the same piston and the same bore, and I only change out the rods and the crank. And of course install new bearings. But yeah, so until then, I think I might try to just source a JDM engine. That way, I mean, lead times on those are usually like 3 to 5 days. And at that point, I can just do the timing belt and typically valve cover gaskets. And I mean, at that point, it's way in a tune. But I have ROM Raider ECU flash, so that allows me to, I don't have to have an access port or anything. I can just use my programs, pay my tuner to tune the car, and then it'll be good to go. So I think what I'll do is try and hunt one down on eBay, and if I can, I'll go ahead and go that route. If not, then I'll rebuild this one. But whenever I figure that out, I'll update.